Next up, we've got Seth Besmertnik from Link Experts, who I just found out what his presentation was about 5 minutes ago. So I'm going to let him surprise you as well. And after that, we've got Vanessa. So it's going to be great, great afternoon. Seth, thanks for joining us.
Cool.
Appreciate you having me.
Cool, cool. Can you hear me all right? Cool. So before I jump into the presentation, I want to take everyone just through a quick story. So our company's been around for several years. We have a good amount of customers, and this is a kind of a compilation of a lot of things that we've experienced, which is a really nice setup for the presentation. So in this story, we're going to have a make-believe company, which is called Acme. It's a HR and human resources and hiring and recruiting company. They're a Fortune 500 company, and this is their annual staff meeting, or annual board meeting and strategic planning, and we got some good dialogue going on here. So the CEO says, our competitors are beating us at SEO. He read about it in a magazine and found out that has been told by his wife that they were getting beat. So their CMO says, yeah, I think we're losing a lot of market share quickly. These other guys are really getting ahead of us. So their brilliant CFO says, oh, don't worry about that. We're gonna take a $500,000 budget from our Cinderella money, and we're gonna spend it on SEO. We're gonna get an agency. We're gonna get some smart people, and we are going to crush the competitors. And then they all laugh and say, ha ha ha. It's gonna be fun. So the CMO takes action, and he's putting together his SEO kind of global strategy. They get the world-renowned Bob Smith to come in as their director of SEO, and he hires a few people to help him out. And then they get the top-notch search marketing agency to really help supplement his efforts, because he's got a big job, and and these guys are set for success right now. So they have a 12-month action plan, and the first 6 months are the first 2 months is we're going to do keyword research. We're going to figure out which right keywords we're going to go for. We're going to do planning. We're going to put project plans together and Gantt charts. The next 2 months they spend doing site audits and figuring out what's right with the site and what's wrong, and creating recommendations for the editors, creating recommendations for the engineers, how to fix the content management system, content suggestions, the whole gamut of things. Everything kind of takes a long time for this company. And then they're all excited, and they're going to come roll out this big SEO bonanza, and they have this big communication. We're going to go do it. Everyone get excited, and they roll out a time frame for making this happen. And the next 6 months weren't as fun as the first 5 months. I don't know what happens to the 6th month here, so the suggestions, not all of them were implemented, because when they were doing their SEO budgeting, they forgot to include any time for the engineers, and they work on really long development cycles, so nothing was really done with the website. They didn't really establish what metrics they were going to use to track SEO, so they just said, oh, well, let's use paid search. That works well, and it's still search, right? So they used their their PPC metrics, and the expectations weren't really managed up there, because it wasn't, they're spending a lot of money, and the investment wasn't being realized right away, and ultimately it didn't have the positive return. Meanwhile, while this is all happening, their CMO, he's happy. He's in the corner. He's like, hey, we're doing SEO. We're doing Web 2.0. Awesome. Meanwhile, Bob over here is like, okay, who do I got to pay to make a change to this site? Why do they hire me if no one's going to listen to me to do anything? Maybe I should make another deck about why SEO is important. That's going to work. That's going to work. They should change this title to Professional Deck Writer. So what ended up happening at this company? Well, Bob got a job at the mailroom. Their agency was let go. They moved their budget back to paid search. And then SEO was kind of marked as BS. The economy crashed, and budgets, they didn't have that much extra money anymore, and SEO, it's black magic, garbage, doesn't work, it's not real, and ultimately Larry and Sergey made some more money. So we call this the SEO Bridge to nowhere, where they kind of did a whole bunch of stuff. They did a whole bunch of stuff. But it didn't really materialize to much, and they kind of abandoned it. So my presentation today is about how to prevent this from happening, how to win budget, and how to implement your CMO, your executive team, and ultimately, prevent this from happening. So just a little bit out of my company. Started a company called Conductor about 4 years ago. We're about 60 people. Really focus on bringing technology solutions to natural search and link building. And we have about 200 customers that are considered global 2,000 companies that we've learned a lot of. And this is some of the things that some companies are doing really well and some that they're failing in ways that they could have ultimately created success. So the three-tiered approach, and again, this is not a soup to nuts process here, but I think there's some very strategic things to take home, is present the opportunity, set expectations both for yourself and your organization, and ultimately manage goals that you're gonna hold yourself accountable to, and then how to some innovative ways to report like a madman and really evangelize SEO on an ongoing basis. So before I jump to the opportunity part, I just want to ask a quick question. So how many people here, just on a show of hands, and let me finish the question, know either for your clients, for your own business, or for the company you work for, plus or minus 10% with some margin of error, but know how much is SEO worth to your organization? So if you were number one for every keyword that was meaningful to your business, and you had the right snippet that converted at the right way, it was well optimized, and all the things are right, how many know exactly what that's worth to your company? Plus or minus 10 or 20%. So we got about, 15 hands here. I was hoping that would be the case, because that's what we see with our customers. And people are like, oh, let's go spend money, let's go do all this stuff, but no one really knows what SEO is worth. So the first part here is how to get people excited about the opportunity, and some ways for you guys to figure out what the opportunity is, and how to ultimately scare the hell out of your company, where if you don't act, you're going to have challenges. So defining your market opportunity can be really simple, and it can also be really complicated. And you can start simple, and you can get more complicated over time. So it's a fairly simple process, and I've built a spreadsheet here, which I'm going to put up on a site for you guys to download at the end of this, where you can download and use it yourself. But basically, you got to get all your keywords. You can bucket them: your top 25, top 50, top 1,000, top 2,000. Make sure you include your non-branded keywords. Figure out your use Google and get the monthly search volumes. And I'm sure if you're thinking, oh, that's not accurate, like I've factored that into the model here. Look at where your rankings are. And just as a heads up, this whole presentation is available for download after this, so don't feel like you have to take crazy notes if you don't want to. Create a click-through curve. So I've included in the model the AOL click-through curve. I don't know if you remember years ago, AOL released a bunch of data, and there's a curve that's created about what % each rank is worth. So you have to use a click-through curve in order to figure out what your market opportunity is. Figure out what your your per visit value is. That's really critical to making this exercise important, although you can do it without it. And then you can get this worksheet, and I'll jump to that in a second. So at the end of the day, what you want to get is, what is SEO worth to my company? So in this company, Acme, you can see, there's about 1 billion visitors, right? I didn't use the revenue measure. There's 1 billion visitors that are out there searching for their keywords, and they're only receiving 160 million, and there's an incremental billion visitors. That's pretty profound, right? And you can make this more accurate. So I'll just pop open here into Excel, and you can see here I've created this model, and there's instructions, and basically you plug in your keywords, you plug in your search volumes, you plug in your rankings. You can create different factoring about, right here we're assuming that the search volumes are about 60% representative of what's really going on. You can change that yourself. You can plug in some other business metrics over here, and then ultimately it'll apply this click-through curve, which is the AOL click-through curve. You can use your own click-through curve if you want, and then ultimately it'll automatically create a little spreadsheet with a pie chart like this. And you can get really fancy if you want to do this. So we do this as a way of, when we're selling our service to companies, we want to know what it's worth. So we do all kinds of stuff like Monte Carlo simulations. What if I got some of my keywords to the top rank, some went up 50%, some went up 1 rank. Take the standard deviation and figure out what that's worth. You can get really sophisticated, but I recommend starting off short or starting off simply. And then once you have that done, get a spreadsheet like this, and then go to Kinko's, and I got this printed up yesterday. It was $25. Or actually, it's upside down. So why do I come to work every day? Put one of these up in your cube, put it up in your room, put it up in your ceiling, put it up in your boss's office, but get one of these and put it up on the wall. And ultimately, use a marker, and as you penetrate this percentage, start to write it on the thing and update these things. Or maybe put, this is my 2008 market opportunity. Every year, put a new up on the wall so you can kind of graph them out there. But stuff like this is important, right? We're introverted people, and we think about the numbers, the spreadsheets, but the rest of the organization needs to see what's going on. So that's super critical. Once you're done with that, get people kind of scared. So I use CompScore here. You can use compete. You can actually use this analysis right here and use your competitors' keywords, and if you want to check all their rankings and do that. Don't worry about CompScore is not accurate or whatever. Like, people react to this kind of stuff, and this is the stuff that you show someone, this slide, Indeed is getting almost twice as much organic traffic from me. And that's scary. I got to do something about that. So I got the opportunity, I got the fear, and I'm committed to SEO. So that's critical. So now we got to create a game plan for success, which I've broken up into 3 key areas. So manage expectations, not internal expectations, but also manage your own expectations. Get buy-in on the success metrics. So what are what defines success in my organization, and when is that going to happen? It's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and then ultimately establish milestones, because you're not going to be successful overnight. Now, if you're an agency or you're doing this for your clients, like, I talked to so many agencies, and they're like, oh, we made all these recommendations and they were never implemented. The company is bad. That's your fault. You failed, right? That's not your customer's fault. And they failed because, one is, you didn't evaluate whether they're going to be a right customer. You didn't give them you didn't give the people internally the tools to succeed, and you didn't help them go through these exercises, and you didn't manage your expectations, and you didn't ask them what allocation of your budget is going to be spent on engineering time so you can make changes to the site to implement these recommendations. If you would have asked them that, you would have found out yes or no, and if you were being fiduciarily compliant to your clients, you would have said, hey, we can't do this until you're ready to do this. And so it's ultimately, you have to take responsibility, and this will hopefully help you. So before jumping into some of the tactics, what we find is a lot of companies manage SEO with paid search metrics. This is wrong. At least in the short term, it's wrong. And it's different. Paid search is paid search is great, right? Spend $1, get $1 back, then I spend $10. You can incrementally budget. Everybody wants to test and grow. Test and grow. Let's do a pilot and let's try it out. SEO, it's hard to do that. It's really hard to do that. And it's hard because, this is extreme here, but you have to invest a lot of money and time, and then ultimately results are potentially very substantial, but they take time to get there, and they don't happen incrementally. You can't just say, I'm gonna do one part of SEO and not do anything else, and then we're gonna see how it's successful. So you got to set expectations internally, and then on top of that, and then just in terms of Acme, they were making progress incrementally, and they had some kind of fundamental issues, but they abandoned SEO before it hit the curve, and we see a lot of companies do that. And one thing just to keep in the back of your mind is, when you join a company as an in-house person, or when you are working with a client, you got to keep in mind how many times they've gone through this cycle already, and understand, like, this is like, they've been burnt out and they've tried this before, and they usually ran into this problem. So the other thing that's really different about SEO is, paid search, hire a guy, put him in a room in a basement, and he can go, or she can go and be successful in paid search. If you help him out with landing page optimization stuff, he can be better, but you can still do paid search in a vacuum. SEO, unfortunately, you can't do that. You have to get, you pretty much have to get cross-functional buy-in, and there's some functions, like I would include like product management or engineering, which are kind of showstoppers, right? If they're not bought in and they're not going to help you, then you're going to be netting out in zero. So super critical that you set expectations for your organization and show them slides like this to make sure that they've bought into this philosophy here. So, and then the last thing, just to manage your own expectations. SEO is typically at the bottom of the funnel. The bottom of the totem pole, in terms of when you're thinking about delivering, when you want to make changes to the site. So don't expect that everyone's like saying SEO is the #1 priority. That's your job to show that, and it's your job ultimately to get Rand's picture up to the top of the totem pole here. So thinking about budgeting for SEO, right? Whether you're asking your client for a budget or you're making a budget for your own company, it's so baffling that, you would never hire a person internally to manage paid search, but say, don't spend any money on Google. But how many companies say, I'm going to hire an SEO guy and not spend any money on anything else? And that includes soft costs like, again, getting engineering resources. I don't get it, but that's what people do, and it's not being thought out. So when you think about your SEO budget, you should think about it in a very multi-dimensional perspective. So it's not just your head count, but it's how much money do we have for content, how much money do we have for link building, how much money do we have for technology. Ultimately, depending on how sophisticated your SEO efforts are, you need technology to scale. You need to know, if you want to use some of the reports that I've created here for you, you need technology to go out and grab all the data and that's a critical path for you. And then you need to have those engineering resources. And this is just kind of a visualization here. It's kind of extreme, but you can have $100,000 for an SEO person, $100,000 for content, $100,000 for for technology. But if you have $0 for site changes, then all those numbers times 0 is 0. And again, that's what happens a lot of the time. So what we've learned here from kind of the best companies in SEO that are out there, a lot of them have something what I call an SEO task force. So think about this, and whether you sit on the in-house side or the agency side, super critical. So get a representative from all the parts of SEO that are critical. So the SEO person, the someone who's managing the website, people who are running content. Get a representative, get them really excited about the opportunity. Show them your big poster, give them their own copy, a miniature version to put on their desk. Get them excited about the opportunity, and then ultimately, once they're kind of hooked and they get it, get them to be accountable. So I've created here just from a little Word document, which is like an SEO responsibility agreement form. But basically, it's kind of, you might think it's stupid, but it's meaningful. How many recommendations? When I give you a recommendation, what's the timeline in that you're going to turn it around and deliver these changes to the site for me, right? Get some agreement on what people are going to be accountable to, and get them to sign a piece of paper and hold each other accountable to it, and ultimately get someone else that's going to supervise that everyone's doing this. But set expectations in the beginning and get people to be accountable. And just one more thing on the budgeting part that I left out was, so how many times have you, present a budget and someone's like, oh, let's just do half of that, and if it works, we'll do the other half. Right? Has that ever happened to anyone? Or a quarter? It happens, I see it happening all the time, and you gotta kind of bang your hand on the table and say no. We either do 100%, 90%, 80%, but after 80%, it's 0. So either I look for a new job or we do this the right way, but don't just, I had a guy in my office the other week who runs SEO for a $1 billion company, and I know someone on their board who thinks that they're super SEO company, but this guy's sitting in my office and he's like, I can't make any changes to the site. And it's like, and he's too insecure to say anything about it. And you gotta just, I told him, you gotta bang the table and you gotta get mad and say, I need these things. Don't just give me half. I need it all, or I need a resume. So the last piece here is the stepping stones for success. So there's a big difference between milestones and success metrics. So just a little tip that I've learned that is really important when you're talking to kind of C-level folks is saying something like this. We're not going to be able to hit these success metrics, which we've clearly defined, for 12 to 18 months. However, I've created a set of milestones that we're going to measure ourselves against every quarter that you're going to have visibility so you know that we're trending in the right direction. Really simple to do, but make people comfort. So it's going to take a year for us to start making the real business impact, but every quarter we're going to measure some kind of soft metrics here. So some soft metrics can be things, and you can have I'm sure you have your own metrics here. They can be things like, getting your keyword list ready, how many recommendations were delivered, what were the quality of those recommendations. I like to do something called page scoring, so how SEO ready are your pages? You can use something like the seoMOZ term target tool. We have something that does that. There's a lot of different things out there where you can do page scoring, but maybe you need a 90 to actually get rankings or to get traffic. But going from a 30 to 70 is pretty good. So so that's a metric that you can use. You can use the kind of traditional SEO metrics, number of index pages, backlinks, unique backlinks. Set some soft milestones that you're going to measure yourself against, and ultimately leading up to rankings. I don't know what the conversation I just got here this morning, but has been about ranking so far. But I've never seen someone get traffic for a keyword they're ranking 50 for, and I've never seen personalized search bring someone from like 85 to number 2. So rankings are not your success metric, but they're a key part of the funnel. So we use rankings as a good guidance as to, we're on the right path. And one last thing here, just a question for the audience. How many people here just have really thought about attribution modeling for SEO with how you track SEO? That's so I got like 10 hands. So this other guy, so in addition to not making changes in the site, I asked them, I said, hey, someone goes to Google and types in a keyword, finds your site, and then the next day you send them an email and they buy something. They become a subscriber. How much credit does SEO get? And he's like, none. And I'm like, well, why don't you just take a gun and shoot yourself in the foot? Seriously. I mean, all research that I've seen out there all points that SEO is one, it's an early funnel item. So it's during the research phase, it's early in the process. And then other research says that attribution is real. So you need to fight really hard and be really, really aggressive about, and this is whether you're an agency or whether you're in-house, about saying, I'm going to attribute, a certain percentage of, if it's the first, I'm going to create assist. So I didn't score the goal, but I got the assist. And what credit am I going to give myself? But if you don't do that, then it's an uphill battle. It's really, especially if you're a very transactional business. SEO is, people will search for appliances and then come back and search for a refrigerator and click on search for the model number refrigerator, click on paid search. But they found your website initially because they searched appliances. And I've seen actually very, very hard data that showed before attribution and after, and it makes a big difference. So we got 5 minutes left here. This is the last part. So this is about reporting like a man or woman, and these are some non-traditional ways to report SEO success. And it's super, super, super important that you are a huge evangelist for the progress that you're making in SEO. And use signs, use posters. I'll show you some things that you can do. So you got to create urgency around your competition. You got to report on the non-business metrics, like maybe the SEO metrics, but in a very business manner, so way that other people who are important like to see information. And then you got to think about some soft ways to evangelize SEO. So one little tool here is just it's real simple, little share of search calculator. Basically, of the 2,000 keywords that I'm tracking, I took how many rank on the first page, how many rank second through fifth, and then how many don't rank beyond that. And how do I compare against my competitors? And how does this change over time? Super easy, and I've been even kind enough to make a little spreadsheet for you where you can just basically plug in the numbers yourself, and I can make this 700 and make this now 300, changes the graphs, red, yellow, green, super simple, get more complicated, and this is helpful. This is not something I created. This is a CMO of a Fortune 150 company that spoke at our company, showed me this, and this is how he looks at natural search. Next thing is, this is kind of a little more complicated here. Rand said to make it advanced, so this is kind of silly and advanced. I call this the destination and traffic modified movement. So again, I'm using rankings here because I'm trying to look at the whole SEO picture and not just the keywords that are driving traffic today. And this is your normal kind of, your father's old ranking report right here with percentage increases. But I've done something a little more sophisticated where I've modified the ranking improvements by movement. So something called a destination modifier, and I'll explain what that is. So if you move 5 rankings from 95 to 90, that's a lot different than if you move from number 12 to number 7 or 8. So what we've done here is we've modified it, so we've created some quadrants over here where there's different quadrants of the first 100 results, and moving from one quadrant to the other is actually more valuable or less valuable. So you actually can see here that although it looks like I'm doing pretty good, as I modify it based on the real important rankings, it's actually less good. And then I've taken it a step further, and I've relatively modified it again based on Google's monthly search volumes. So I went from being decent to less decent to really not so decent at all. And because I have one big win here with sales jobs, which went from 41 to 3. But some of the other keywords that were wins before actually have pretty low traffic relative to the sales job. So it's another way to look at it. And again, I've created a little spreadsheet here where you can do this, and you can control the modifiers and do it yourself. I was in a very spreadsheet making mode. The last thing here is run think of SEO like running a sales team. So we have a sales team in our company, and a lot of companies have sales teams, and they do things like put thermometers up on the wall, ring the bell, do all kinds of stuff. When you manage SEO, especially if you're in a company where you have a cube or whatever it is, like ultimately ask permission, right? We used to use an air horn, and some guy said his heart was hurting him after a while, so we stopped doing that. But make sure you don't get yourself in trouble. But there's a couple things you can do, right? So set up a big thermometer, put your metrics on there, let everybody see it, right? You'd be surprised about when you set something like this, you'll have engineers in your company coming over to you and be like, hey, how are we doing today? And like you got to create a mission, and you got to wait to establish the mission. Get a gong, get a bell, ring the bell every time you get a #1 rank, every time you get a sale, something like that. Ring the gong. And I don't know, everyone ever see the movie Major League? So in the movie Major League, at the end of they don't like their owner of their company. So she's not a nice person. So they create this big blow up picture of her, and every time they win a game, they pull off a puzzle piece, and ultimately at the end, like, they want to really humiliate her. So, and they win a lot of games, and it's funny, but do stuff like that. It's really, I'm telling you, it's really, really important, and it's critical to success. So all this stuff is available on our website, conductor.com/SEOMOZ. We made a little page right here. You can just go and download it right now, whenever you want. We're going to keep it up there forever. If you have those success stories, please email them to me. And Rand too. I'd love to see just about doing some of the soft things, and I've created another little thing here just since we have 2 minutes. What's your best bet for success when picking a job or picking an SEO job or picking a new client? So, well, don't take a job at the wrong company. And I've created a little top 10 list of questions to ask before you take a job, an in-house SEO job that you can really you can use to determine whether it's the right place to work or not, and questions that you can ask yourself if you're already working at a company, and things that you got to ultimately address to be successul. So thank you very much, and it's a super honor to be here, and hope this was helpful. Oh, one last thing is, see, I got this little orb here, and it's supposed to be changing colors, so if you go like that, it'll change colors. Basically, that's something that we give to our customers, and it hooks up to how well their SEO is doing. And I have an interesting story of a Fortune 50 company, and there's this guy that runs search, and he had this little orb on his desk. And one of the executives from his company was walking by and saw it, and was like, "What's that orb doing?" And he's like, "Oh, it basically tells us how good we're doing in SEO." And it gave him like 3 minutes to talk about SEO with the guy that he would never probably even talk to, let alone talk about SEO. And I don't know if it has anything to do with that or not, but they have twice as much money to spend on SEO this year. So I just think creatively, and I hope this is helpful.